Hello, WordPress aficionados! I am John DeBach from WPJon, and today we're talking about headers and footers in Divi. We're going to make custom headers and custom footers for Heady, and we're going to make them as the default style, the default template for all pages and posts on our website, and we're going to be able to choose exactly what we want in the header and footer using Divi's 4.0 engine, which is like a miracle of science when it comes to web development, something I definitely ask for the most, and that's happening right here, right now on WPJon. Bloop, bloop.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm John DeBach. I've been building websites for companies and bloggers for over 10 years. Here on WPJon, I teach you everything I know about WordPress and digital marketing so you can create amazing freaking websites that make money, money, money. Okay, here we are at our test website again. Let's jump into the computer and see what the issue is. Well, first of all, we didn't even upload a logo, so that's a big problem. And second of all, we kind of have a double header or a double footer situation going on. Now, I know 2 feet is good for humans, but having a double footer for a website is not good. So you can see here we have a footer that was kind of designed from the WordPress, the default layout that we downloaded from Divi. And then we have the default Divi footer, which has designed by Elegant Themes and this kind of comes stock with every Divi install. And we obviously want to get rid of that and make this our main footer and edit it. And we also want to change a few things about the header as well. So how do we do that? How do we do that in Divi? It's really not that complicated. That's the good news. It's in the theme builder. So let me show you how that works so that you can make as many interesting and intricate builders, or excuse me, as many interesting and blah, 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 blah. This guy can't talk today. What's wrong with him? I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Well, just take your time, John. Just take your time and do it right. Okay, I'm ready. You're going to make as many custom headers as you want. The truth is you can have a different custom header for people who are logged in. You can have a different custom header for your shop pages if you have a WooCommerce store. You can even have a different custom header and or footer for posts versus pages. So really the flexibility is insane. Let's show you how it works. So we're going to go into the WordPress dashboard. I have my menu set up already, so that's step done. Under the Divi menu, you're going to see Divi, and the Divi thing, Under the Divi menu, you're going to see Theme Builder. That's where the magic happens. So if we click on Theme Builder, we'll be taken to this wonderful page where nothing has been done yet. And this is where we're going to add a global header and a global footer. And that's your starting point to make any template or any customization. You're going to want to start at least with a global header and a global footer, in my opinion. Some people might disagree, but I think that's kind of like the first thing you should do. And that's what this video is about, the headers and footers. So let's do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on Add a Global Header and then Build a Global Header. And that's going to launch a Divi builder page, like a visual builder for Divi. And once it loads, it's going to ask you the typical questions. Now, because headers and footers aren't really something that are made on most of the Divi layouts, you're probably going to want to design them yourself. But you never know. You can also, if you've had some from a previous website, which you might develop over time, you can always install them in the library. But for now, let's start with a blank slate. So we're going to click on Add a New Row. And then I'm going to click a blank slate there, and I'm going to add a menu. So this is the manual module in Divi. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a logo, and I've made a fake name for this guy. His name is Mitch Hurley. So on my desktop, I saved a Mitch Hurley logo right there, and I'm going to upload the image. Now it's invisible because it's white on white at the moment, but it is there. So we're just going to leave it for a second. And before I do anything else, I'm just going to go to the Design tab, and in the layout, it is left aligned, so that's correct. So under Menu Text, we're going to click Align Right. And what that's going to do is allow your logo to be on the left and your text to be on the right, which is kind of a classic way to have a menu styled. So I'm going to click OK for now. We'll get back to the color and styling in a second. I like my menus to be tucked up real narrow at the top of my site. I know some people have kind of these big mastheads. I advise against that. As a WordPress designer, you want something small because that's prime real estate. The top part of your web page is what we consider above the fold. And anything where they can see that page before having to scroll is above the fold. The term is taken from old newspaper days where they folded the newspaper and then whatever was above the fold is what you saw on the newsstands. Same thing with the website. Whatever you see immediately is what you see before you scroll. And that is prime real estate on your web page. So you want to make sure your header is there and it's easy to navigate for your users, but it doesn't take up much space. So the first thing I'm going to do is eliminate all padding from the section module. So we're going to just kind of drag this down so it's big enough so I can get some clicking on it. And then I usually I click on the consistent link thing so that they're the same top and front, and then just click and drags till it's 0. And then I have the same thing that I want to do kind of here with my row, but this time I'm not going to take it down to absolute 0. I'm just going to leave a little tiny space. Now the reason it's still so big is because that logo is huge. So the first thing I'm going to want to do before I adjust the size of the logo is actually be able to see it, obviously. So I'm going to take a blue color from this page. I have a little ColorZilla plugin installed. It is a free Chrome extension that allows me to just click and point and get a hex code, which is a 6-digit or combination of 6 digits and numbers that has the code for what that color is. So I'm going to use that to get my color. And in the background, I'm going to add that color by hitting paste. And it's the same exact blue that we're using over there on that other side of the site. Now you'll see that makes the background blue, so the whole stretch is going to be blue, but the menu itself has a background color, so you have to set that as well. So I'm going to go back to the menu module, as you can see the menu settings, and the background here, I'm going to add the same blue. Now it looks a lot better, obviously, but obviously the Mitch Hurley logo is way too big. So what we're going to do is under the design, we're going to click on sizing right over here. And under sizing, we're going to look for logo max height. In the logo max height, we're going to set this to a reasonable size. So I'd say, 60 pixels is pretty reasonable for a logo if it's stacked on top like that, but you should be able to get it down to 50 or even 40. I think 40 is pretty small, but I think it looks kind of elegant small. So I'm going to keep it there. And then I'm going to go back and adjust my row accordingly. And I think, let's see, is there any spacing on this margin? I'm going to just make sure that the margins are set to 0 and the padding is set to 0 on the menu. And I think that's pretty workable. That's pretty workable. That looks like an attractive global menu. But I don't like the text styling, obviously, for the menu links themselves. So we're going to go and adjust the style of that real quick. We just click back into menu settings, and in the design we're going to take the menu text and, excuse me, I clicked on the wrong one, menu text, make it white. Let's see, that's active link color, so we're going to go to menu text color, change those to white, and let's make them all caps and change the font to something a little bit more dynamic. Abril fat face. My website just called me a fat face. I'm not a fan of that. So we're gonna choose another one. I think Montserrat tends to be a nice font that has a lot of weights. So I'm going to use Montserrat or Montserrat, however you place it. I'm going to use heavy. Make it nice and bold, and then since it's so bold, I think the text needs to be a little bit bigger, maybe something like that. It's not a perfect match to the Mitch Hurley font I chose, so I'll probably keep playing with it, but it's a good starting point. Like I said, just a good starting point. Now here, I'm going to make sure all that stuff's done, and that's pretty much it. If I hit the purple button down here at the bottom, just like I do with any of my visual page builders, and then click on the kind of aqua blue green seafoam green save button, I just click on that, and now it's live on the site. But I think actually on the first time you do it, you have to click this purple X, and you'll see to make these changes you've made live on the site, you have to click on this save changes button. Once you do that though, If we click back over to our site, as soon as we refresh the page, you'll see that that header that we made, the universal header, has now taken over, and it is the header on every page and every post. So even if we went to the blog page, I'm going to open it in a separate tab, you're going to see that it is now the home page. The same header that is on the homepage is now on the blog, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we want. What makes this, you might say, well, what's the big deal? Like, this just looks like a colored version of the menu. What makes this great is you can add whatever you want. So under your header, you can go back and edit it, or on top of your header even. So let's say you wanted to have a customer portal, for example. You could add another section. So I'm going to add another section here. I'm going to add another text module here, and I'm just going to add a link for a login, and maybe, or we'll call it my account and maybe register. Okay, and we'll pretend those are links for now. We're not going to make them actual links. And under the design, I'm just going to move the text over to, I'm going to make it white and then move it over to the right. And what I'm going to do is adjust the background of this section to be a dark color. I'm going to use the color of the blue that I had and then just drag it down to make it a slightly darker blue. And that's starting to look close to what I want. So again, I'll do the same thing where I just take the padding down, and again with the same thing with the row to where it's almost nothing, something around there. And I'm going to just simply drag that on top of my blog header, hit save, and now I have a login and register link menu right there on top. And as you can see, you can add anything. You can add images, you can add any module in the Divi options you can add as part of your header now, which is amazing. You can add forms, you can add a gallery. I don't think you ever would want to add a gallery. But now if we go back and refresh the page, you'll see that that header now has that login and register stuff on the page, and it has it on every page, which is hugely helpful. I mean, a great example of when you might want to use this is if you have a e-commerce store or an educational course kind of website, and you can also have the account and registers stuff appear only on certain pages. So let me show you how that works. So here you can, in the theme builder, you have these additional buttons up here, and this can tell you where you make this available. So because you only have one, you have to duplicate it at least. So we're going to duplicate the template, and then we're going to tell it where it gets assigned. So that gets done here in the little buttons, and we can assign. Oh, excuse me, it's not there. It's in the gear wheel. So it's right there. That little gear wheel tells you where you want to assign this particular thing. So if we click on it, we could say we only want this one to appear on the blog, right? So under specific pages, we'll go blog. We'll hit save, and then on this custom header, what we're going to do is remove this one. So let's get rid of that and hit save, and then we'll save all the changes as well to the blog in the theme builder, again by pressing that button, which I just did. And so now you have, this is the home page, and then this is the blog page. So you'll see here now when I refresh the page, it still ends up with nothing on the top. Whereas if I go to the home page now, and even though I've updated everything, if I go to the home page, it should show that extra bar at the top. And that's how you set a custom header that can be changed from template to template or page to page as needed. It's the same thing for the footer. The great thing about this, though, is that if you were to already have something pre-designed like this, you can copy and paste it just like you can any other WordPress page with a Divi builder. So let's enable the visual plugin for a second on the home page, because this footer is pretty close to what I think is a very polished and finished footer. So let's just use it instead of having to rebuild it from scratch. We'll just add a little something to it at the bottom like a copyright, and I think we'll call it a day. So this section is a custom section. What I'm going to do is simply copy this section, and then under my theme builder, I'm going to add a global footer. So we go back to the theme builder, click on Build Global Footer, and give it a second to load, build from scratch. And I'm not going to add anything there, but here I'm going to right click and hit Paste Section. And as soon as I do that, it pastes the header in, the footer, excuse me. And what I can do is trash this section so that this is the only one here. Now, I noticed that it's a little bit too much at the bottom and I need to add a copyright. So I'm going to add a new regular section and a row and then another text module. And right here, I'm going to put just a basic copyright. And then I'm going to hold down the Alt key and hit 0169, I believe. That's how you get the copyright symbol. And then copyright, we'll call it Mitch Hurley. All rights reserved. And I'm just going to take the text and center it to make it actually look like the way it should. Hit check, and we'll adjust that spacing again because it's a little bit too great for my liking. Same thing with the row. And I'll change the color of this. Instead of a blue, I'll just go with like a light gray just to give it a little bit of separation from the footer, and hit save. And that now is going to take over the default Divi footer as soon as we hit save. So we're going to save the changes. Now I want you to see what happens. It's really interesting. So this is the home page as it is, and you see we have this black bar at the bottom. And when I hit refresh on the page, that black bar completely disappears and is replaced with our footer. Now you'll notice, hey, I got two footers. Well, the reason for that is because this home page still has that as part of the page, so you have to delete it. But once you do, you'll have this on every other page. So like, let's take a look at this test page that doesn't already have that on the page, and you'll see immediately it assigns that footer, and it's starting to look like a real website on every single page. The header and the footer are like the two pieces of bread in your sandwich. I mean, without those things being good and consistent and delicious, you don't really have a sandwich. So make sure your header and footer are fantastic. The good news with headers is that I personally think they should be kept simple. Logo menu, that's it. So they're pretty easy to design. And footers, the really great news with footers at Divi is that Divi has a lot of footers built into it at different pages. So if you look through the template library, a lot of those templates have footers built into the home page before they develop this system so that you can do exactly what I'm teaching you here. You could take it and move it and then you're done. So that's how you build custom headers and footers. You can add whatever content, whatever Divi modules you want, any kind of forms you want. You can turn them on and off for certain pages, on and off for certain post categories. That's all in the theme builder. And it's really just a lot of fun. Let me go over exactly how to make it for, just before I sign off, how to do it for different templates. So if you wanted a different template for certain posts or certain pages, you can do that. You can actually copy this over. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of that custom header. I'm just going to copy the global header and paste it in. And this one is on specific pages. But what I could do is I can add a new template, and we're going to say that this one is going to be for only posts in the marketing category. So under specific categories, we're going to go with marketing category, create a template. You'll see that the global header and footer is automatically brought over. You can always delete them or change them, but you don't have to. And then for those posts in marketing, we can add whatever we want. You can actually even add a custom body. One thing that I do quite often with this is I will make a page header, and I have that on WPJon. So instead of doing this on certain posts or categories, what I'll do here is I'll just do it to a specific page right now. I'll do it to the privacy policy, hit save. And I'm going to edit the global header. So what I'm going to do first is disable global, because I don't want this to affect other pages. So I'm going to disable global here, and just by clicking it here. And once I do that, it takes all the content that was in the header, but disables it from affecting everything else. So I'm going to edit it by clicking on the pencil. And then as soon as I do that, I am going to take advantage of Divi's beautiful dynamic content engine. So I'm going to add another section. We'll do a regular section, and we'll do a regular text row again. And you can see how fast this can go. And instead of adding my own content here, what I'm going to do is click this little icon, and this is going to allow me to choose from dynamic content. So once I click that icon, I can choose the post title. Let's see, where is it? Post category, link, author, site title, site tagline, title date, post archive. Oh, post or archive title. Threw me off because it had archive in there, but it's either the post or the archive title. And so it says your dynamic post title will display here, but we could still style it. So I'm going to go over to design, and under text, I'm going to change it to maybe a nice chunky font, like ultra bold, and center it and make it a lot bigger. Maybe make it, and then I think that's good for now. But what I'll do is I'll change the spacing again because it's taking up too much space. And over here, I'll change the background color to a similar light gray. I think I'll use the same one I used for the footer. It's under my recent colors. And that's a page header. And that looks really good. So once I save it, and then save it in the theme builder, so we'll close this and hit Save Changes. Now, because I've made this custom header different and I've assigned it to privacy policy, if I go over to my website and visit the privacy policy page, which I believe was just privacy-policy as the slug, you'll see, yep, there it is. The privacy policy header is right there, front and center, where it should be. And the footer is looking great. The header is looking great. And you could set this as your default page type for all pages. Of course, you do have a bit of an issue here in that privacy policy, and you have this sidebar content going on over there. So what I would do in this particular instance is I would actually go back to the theme builder and add a custom body. So let's just do it real quick to be completely thorough. We'll build a custom body, and we'll add, again, we're just worried about the body in this instance, so I'm going to build it from scratch. I'm going to add a classic blog style, which is a 70-30 split. And on the left, I'm going to look for the post content. So there's the post content. I'm not going to change any of the stylings, but you definitely can. And then on the right side, I'm going to hit sidebar, and it's going to pull a sidebar. Now in your widget area, you have a bunch of different sidebars by default, but the sidebar is the one that you're seeing. And then under design, I actually am going to eliminate that border. I didn't like that border, so I'm going to eliminate it from the post right there. So now it's just a nice clean sidebar. I'll hit save, and you'll notice there's no post title. So that makes it really clean because I already have it in the secondary header I added for that template. So once I close this and hit save changes, everything should be saved. And when I refresh the page, you'll see that I don't have privacy policy duplicating. And now it's really starting to come together. It's really looking like a real website. And what did we spend a few minutes just making a custom header and footer and assigning it to pages? It's really not that complicated. We didn't have to touch code once, and we are incredibly flexible here. So as you can see, the capabilities of this are absolutely incredible. I'm really just scratching the surface with how much you can really adjust these templates. Hopefully this gives you an insight to how you can use it in your own website. And if you have any questions, be sure to leave them down in the comments below or hit me up over at WPJon.com. And I look forward to talking to you and seeing what you create with Divi.